everyone. In this video, I go over the claim of fact essay prompt, and I will publish a separate video in which I explain how to write it. So from your readings and what you have watched on the stasis theory video, you know that the first place we start in the cycle is with the facts. And so with this project, you're going to find hard evidence to construct a claim of fact that answers a question you develop about a STEM-based topic. Make sure you choose a topic that interests you and that provides you a challenge. So the first step is to actually choose that topic and develop a guiding question. So select the topic you have a genuine interest in exploring and that has enough complexity to ask a challenging question. Conduct some preliminary research to help you hone in on a focal point. And you can even consider looking into areas that many people consider givens that may not be givens. For example, sticky myths like we only use 10% of our brain seem to prevail, even though many studies have thoroughly discounted this belief. So obviously, some of these sticky myths might be too simple or too complex to explore within our quarter's limits. Therefore, you want to develop a question around your topic to guide you through your research. So your project, you'll answer this question by using multiple sources, hard evidence, and a very thorough investigation. So for a manageable topic, you will want to choose something that isn't too broad and isn't too narrow. For example, what is the effect of climate change on the United States is way too broad. But what were the traffic patterns at the intersection of Higuera and Broad Street between 2 a.m. and 2:15 a.m. on December 17th, 2020 is way too narrow. And also make sure you do not ask a question that would require defining subjective terms, terms that don't have a concrete definition, like good or bad or dangerous or safe. Your question must only must stay in the fact cycle. Do not leave fact. Now, here's an example to give you. Let's say I'm passionate about cryptocurrency. So that's a topic that falls into STEM. I've got to narrow that scope though. Okay, so I start thinking about cryptocurrency mining. Oh yeah, it generates CO2. Now I'm interested, wondering, wait, but what does that mean if it's rising in popularity? What if that creates more CO2 emissions than we realize? So my guiding question could be, does the rising trend of cryptocurrency mining affect CO2 emissions? So I would have to research the following in order to answer that question. I would have to look into what cryptocurrency mining is. I would have to look into what it entails. I would have to look into who mines it, where it's mined, if it's a rising trend, what is the process of it? And does that process generate CO2? And does that mining actually then contribute to CO2 emissions? And if I could go through and look into all of those things, then I can make a claim of fact. I can either say the rising trend of cryptocurrency mining does affect CO2 emissions, or my answer could be the rising trend of cryptocurrency mining does not affect CO2 emissions, or my claim of fact could be sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So the point is, once you find the answer to that question, that's your claim. And so you have to start with the curiosity, right? Start by looking into things with an open mind, and then think of all the little pieces that you would have to look into in order to answer your question. Now, in order to know that you have the right scope, look at this example that I have on the prompt and make sure that you don't have to investigate 40 things in order to answer your question. You want it to be narrow enough so that you have enough time to research and do so in an effective way. So with step 2, obviously this is the research process, but the point is that there's a couple different ways when you look at evidence, okay? Meaning that if it's not timely enough, things could have changed. So you want to get the most recent research and compile all that research, because a strong, well-supported claim can only be so if it's a credible research just backing that claim. Now, think about things, I mean, for example, how does science change? Well, when I was a kid, Pluto was a planet. But now that time has gone on, we had to redefine what Pluto is. So we can't argue if it's a planet anymore, because it's not, right? We've found out now that it's a dwarf planet. That's the fact. So as you gather data and you look into things, just make sure that there's not another voice out there that's saying that's not true and has better evidence. Okay. So again, you're going to learn how to conduct very credible or conduct research and look at credible sources through the library workshop. And then after you have your guiding question and you look into all your evidence and you answer your question, then you get to sit down and write an essay. Everybody's dream, I know. But when you get to the part where you're going to actually create the essay, please watch the video that I publish that explains how to write it. But be ready for the answer to be a little bit more complicated than yes or no when you're doing your research. It is an argument still, right? Because if you're answering a question and people want to know the answer because they're curious, a claim of fact is still an argument, because somebody could say, prove it, right? If I said to you, caffeine stunts your growth, and you say to me, prove it, well, then I'd have to, with that proof, I'd be arguing, right, my case. So when you go to do your research and look into your guiding question, these are the things that are really important. Do not add any value to your question, and make sure your question has an appropriate scope, because you have 4 pages. That's all you get. MLA double spaced, right? So MLA format, which means it's double spaced. So because of that, you really want to stay narrow. Also, run your question by me. If if you want to, I would love to take a look at it before you start researching. A lot of people start way too big and it seems like it's not a big topic, and then you start trying to unpack it and it's huge. So reach out if you need help coming up with a question, but you will need to find 5 sources. That's the minimum. Fact-based hard evidence and raw data, charts, graphs, examples, events, forensics, all of it. And you obviously need to find sources that are timely as well, unless you need a historical source. But other than that, everything else you need is written in this prompt. And again, always reach out if you need more information from me.